Hi everyone, today we will study Geography Lesson 1, Resources and their development. First, we need to know what is resources. All the gifts of nature that satisfy human needs is called resources. Thil engpo mishing mamo phusuk thai thil reng kha resources kan ti chunta. Resources I ama chawa omchun engma anilo. Ma se kan man thim chuna changkai thai ni. Let me give you one example from your textbook. The river Damodar was initially drawn as the shore of Bengal, but after the river was harnessed by the Damodar Valley Corporation's DVC, the water of this river began to be considered as a resource. DVC tekhan dam lien tak tak ta siamin tui an khopa mishing tan thil changkai electric sim chuanan an mangani. Now we will go through the next point, that is types of resources. Number 1, we have natural resources. Resources which are available in nature. Anma ni lo omsa kandi deka natural resources kandi chunta. For example, land, soil, and water. And number 2, there is human-made resources. Resources which are created by man's skill and knowledge. Mishing thim na le fin na ina ansim chu hauka. Human-made resources kandi chunta ni. It may be like building, bridge. And now, on the basis of origin. On the basis of their origin, natural resources are classified into two categories: biotic resources and abiotic resources. Biotic resources, this included all living organisms. Thil nung hau shim kha biotic resources kan ti junta, such as plants, animals, birds, it may be fish. And number 2, abiotic resources, non-living things. These are obtained from non-living things such as rocks, air, salt, and water. On the basis of ownership, resources beacon na how. At point number 1, there is individual resources. When we say individual, it means mimal. So individual resources are owned privately by an individual. Ma'ni mimal sorkar ta ni rawa ma'ni mimal ina kan nai teka individual resources kan ti chunta ni. For example, it may be like private building, private hotel, and in rural areas they used to have a plot of land. Huan ram amo lei letten nei thini khang zong ka individual resources kan ti chunta ni. Next is community owned resources. These resources are meant for use by all members of the community. Mipui van tlang ina kanin tron thai thil hau ka community owned resources chunta. For example, like community hall, playground, or parks. National resources. All resources essentially belongs to the nation. A nation aramina anai big. It may be minerals or different types of resources which belongs to the nation. And one thing you should know is that area of ocean within 19.2 km from the coast belongs to nation. International resources. All the resources lying beyond 200 km of exclusive economic zone in the oceans are known as international resources. Exclusive economic zone na changa kilometers ani pi lampang khachu international resources ania. International resources, they belong to the open oceans, and no individual country can use these without the approval of international agencies. International resources tahi du dana man thai anilawa mang tu chuan international agencies UN conventions a dil na thelu ngai thina ni. This point, on the basis of continued availability of resources. Point number 1, renewable resources. These are resources which can be renewed or replenished. Thil man non thai chi shim ka renewable resources kan ti chunta. For example, windmill, solar energy, anzau thai lo ni, so they are called inexhaustible. And point number 2, non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources chu renewed thai lo, man non thai lo ang chi khan ta. For example, petroleum, coal, minerals. And one thing we should know is that these type of resources need million of years to be formed again, so we must use it judiciously. Renchem takakan manangai ni. Why? Because we need to save it for the future generations. Next point, we have resource development. When we say development, it means mason na. In the ancient times, people were engaged in hunting and food gathering. Kampile puteka rama te kalin thaira te anlatrina. But now we are in modern era and make different types of resources using human skills and development. Our resources have been developing, but if we use our resources indiscriminately, it is going to finish, and like we have said, we need to use it judiciously and with proper planning. Rensem takle plan mu mal taknen kan manangai ni. And this has led to overexploitations of natural resources. Harsa na tlen thai sang te. Point number 1. Mi claim te ti lungoy kan du avangin kan resources na chun te hi kan mang trina. It has led to unequal divisions, and there is a gap between the rich and the poor. Miho sale meritai inkara gap lientak asiama, and we need to check these exploitations of resources. If not, it causes environmental disaster. Kuarel chet na kanti te global warming kovel lumlutuk kanti te le chet na chan asiam theni. Next is conservation. Conservations of resources should be undertaken by the government with collaborations with the citizens. So Karle me puite kanchan hawangaya. There are some ways of conservations which are as follows. Point number 1, recycling or using waste matter. Tilman to sa teka kan man non le angaya ni. And point number 2, substituting the non-renewable resources with renewable ones. Non-renewable resources teka renewable resources akan tlak angaya ni. And point number 3, enacting and enforcing strict laws of conservations. Strict takadan siyem tele ahun binay tlapa resources man dan ka check angay bukani. And lastly, we will talk about erosion. And point number 1, there is water erosion. There are two types of erosion. It takes place in mountains and other that take place in plains. Pailama chuan seed erosion antia water erosion hi chuan plangrama chuan gulis anti ve thungani. Wind erosion, blowing away of loose soil from land by wind. Clean lay alaka wind erosion chuni maya. And soil erosion, the removal of topsoil by erosive agents such as wind and running water is known as soil erosion. In order to prevent soil erosion, we need to take some steps like afforestation, thingpun war sau te. And basically in Mizoram, we need to practice terrace farming. Kamsahamnida.